know, it is ironic. You guys are the Wynn family. You know, obviously, if you look at, you know, your last name, some people would not pronounce it that way.
No.
But I'm excited because the Calvary community gets to know why you guys are true winners, in my eyes. And so, obviously, Myles has a great story. And, you know, I just kind of want you to go back to the beginning. You know, I want you to think back to, you know, that day you woke up with a headache, him telling you he had a headache. You know, just tell me a little bit about that experience.
Sure. It was a Monday, and Myles had a headache. And we dropped his sister off, and he said, I threw up. And I thought, that's weird, but I thought he was being a fifth grader, you know, didn't want to go to school or something. But the headache persisted. We had a pediatric appointment because it went a whole day. And we went in, and he said, oh, maybe it's sinus, maybe it's this. Left, took the meds, didn't get any better. And then we went to the emergency room that night after it just persisted all day. So it's about 2 days of headaches. And then we went to Memorial, and the doctor decided to do a CT. We're sitting there, it's about midnight, almost 1 in the morning really, and the scan came through the report on my phone, and I read it, and just I don't even know, it's like an out-of-body experience. So I ran outside, called his dad, and it's kind of where it started. It just said that he had a mass.
Okay, Myles, tell me, what do you remember about that night?
I was at St. James, and, you know, I'm usually playing football with everybody. I didn't feel like playing football. I was just sitting down on the bench, like watching everyone, like, what's going on? It's not right. So I told my mom, and she's like, it's just sinus. You know, it was getting warm, so that means like pollen and stuff. That's what we thought it was, but it turns out it was something else.
So, Mom, you know, obviously we get a notice that there's something going on. Take us through kind of the next steps. What do you?
So the next morning, the doctor ordered, the neurosurgeon on call ordered a MRI. He came to visit our room, and he just said, you know, let's do an MRI, which is more in depth than the CT. And they usually do it with contrast and without, just to see what's going on. And so that was scheduled. And then based on that, they would decide to do a biopsy. And then we had the MRI, and that was when, you know, he said it was called an interventricular mass. So they ordered the biopsy. So then we ended up staying for that whole week through the weekend, because an outpatient, it would be harder to get him in fast. So if we were inpatient, we moved right into surgery. So the following Tuesday, he had his biopsy.
Pathology comes back, and obviously, you know, it's what you don't want to hear. How did you take that? How did you communicate it to Myles?
So we went in 3 weeks later. They said they had the results back. We didn't take Myles with us. So Doug and I went in. And I think even for the doctor, it was hard to say. So we're talking, about 30 minutes into the conversation, I looked at him and I said, so it's cancer? And he said, yes. And I just remember like a tear streaming down my face, because I was shocked. I was in shock, but I don't know. It was just surreal again. So for us, we chose not to use the word cancer, having lost our sister-in-law to breast cancer not 8 months ago. We left the office, and we just told Myles, hey, we always told him, whether it's benign or cancer, it's all the same. We have to treat it the same. And it's very much true that day, like a lot of people don't realize, whether it's benign or cancerous, tumors in the brain, even the ones that are benign, they're untreatable because they don't respond to a lot of medicine. So either way, I just said, we're going to have surgery.
You know, we hear so much about organizations that, you know, support the different cancers, whether it be for breast cancer or childhood cancer. And in your story, it's so interesting that Cure kind of did something kind of unbeknownst to you that ended up being a major, you know, player in its treatment. Can you talk about Cure and what they kind of did?
The day after we got the report that week, Myles went back to the hospital, and I remember Mandy coming in with her little cart and a wanted to meet with us and
Little
talk
Chick-fil-A
about
sandwich.
it. Yeah, Chick-fil-A sandwiches. And she just, she never talked about this genetic mutation testing. We had no idea that that was happening behind the scenes. So based on that pathology, his surgery was scheduled for a week later. So during that time, that tissue from the surgery, after the surgery was done, that tissue from the surgery, so he removed about 80% of the tumor. It's a 9.5-hour surgery. We didn't realize that that's what Cure does. That part of the money they raise, and a lot of it, goes to this genetic mutation testing, which is usually not covered by insurance, and it's very expensive. It's about $5,000 or $6,000. So we didn't know that that tissue was going to be sent off. So we have the surgery, he recovers, and he's out in 5 days after a 9.5-hour brain surgery. So another couple of weeks goes by, we're talking about treatment, and at that time it was going to be full cranial radiation here at Memorial. And we were preparing for that, went to Atlanta, met with another doctor, with the doctors here, and the next day came back that the pathology was back and that it was not high-grade glioma, which is really serious, comparable to glioblastoma in adults. They replicate and keep coming back. But they found the mutations of Myles' tumor gave us a lot more options for treatment because they knew what made it tick. So the idea is to do an inhibitor which shrinks the remaining tumor or a tumor based on how what it's made up of. So we did not know that Cure was doing that. And that was a godsend. That was the game changer because we had a very bleak outlook before that.
You're watching your son, he's kind of helpless, but man, you leaned on the Savior. So
I think instinctively, growing up, my parents are both very faithful Christians, and I would always kind of teeter back and forth with things and my own questions and my own journey. But it was instilled in me, and I saw it working in our lives growing up. And in that moment, I thought of nothing else. I wasn't calling a friend. It wasn't focusing on other things. It was literally praying and learning to talk to God. And sometimes that was 50 times a day. Just give me strength, give me strength. And it gave me peace. There were days that I didn't know if it would help. And some days it was just harder to get out of my head. But I just was persistent in that, but also because Myles always, his faith never wavered. So that was an inspiration to me to stay up and just keep going.
it's an amazing thing about love. It casts out fear, man. You when you have an ultimate love for your kids as you do, you'll do anything. You'll run through a wall.
You absolutely will. And not only that, it was God. Not only did I pray and have faith and just speak to God, He showed up in so many ways. The mutation testing, unbeknownst to anybody. Nobody ever talked to us. The game changer for the medicine, not having to do radiation to be able to have other options was just going a whole nother way. You never would think that you'd get a different diagnosis. And there it was.
Even though we feared radiation, we did it this September. Was it October?
Yeah, but it was
September.
different type.
But it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Okay.
I just lost my hair. That was about it.
Right.
So.
And hair grows
And I already
back.
had a buzz cut. I buzzed my hair for the summer, so I didn't lose any
He was ready.
crazy hair. So.
So, Mom, we kind of, we're on the journey. We've got through the surgery. But I think, you realize that maybe Myles needs a little bit more. And then you had one of those God moments again. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So after about 10 months on this inhibitor, that was the only treatment he did at the time. There was a few scans. We moved to 3-month scans. And when we moved to the 3-month scans, there was a couple of scans where we were told it was unchanged, whatever. September of 23, it was growing back, which is common. They can grow back. Myles doesn't have a mutation where another one will develop. It's just getting rid of the one. So, which is a blessing. So when I realized that it was growing back, I just knew there was something else. We had to do something else. So I went into my one group that I was a part of and just said, this is what I need. Tell me where to go. I went outside with my dog and I prayed and I said, God, just tell me what to do. Show me the way. Come back inside. A person I don't know wrote me this note and said, you need Dr. Klimo at St. Jude. And I have his email. Just like that, within 7 minutes of writing that post. And I reached out, and 2 days later at 8:30 at night, chief neurosurgeon, one of the top doctors in the country, calls me on his personal phone and says, hey, I want to see you guys, get the scans to me, and we were at St. Jude's in 2 weeks.
So in the month of December in my house, I would say Hallmark Channel probably takes precedent with all the Christmas movies, but every commercial is basically a story from St. Jude's. And, you're kind of sitting there and you see them, you get in the moment with one or two of them, but you don't really know the impact that St. Jude has. Can you speak to your experience with what they do, what they provide?
When we got to St. Jude, it was just unbelievable. I mean, this place is mammoth. It is highly secure. They provide our flights. They pay for our flights. They pay for our lodging. There's a wonderful cafeteria. Anything the kids need, anything they want. There's programs. There's so much. All that.
Got all these
Musical instruments, hair salon, anything the kids want.
Nail salon.
STEM, what is it, the 3D printing, art. They'll come to you, they'll make whatever you need. Concierge. So every dollar of that, truly, what they can do for families. There's a per diem, I think, that you can get to on a card for expenses and travel and things like that. But there's really no additional expense. So you never get a bill, and it is 110% true. And we like to see, because we've come across things in our lives where you're donating with your heart and maybe it doesn't go the right place, but it absolutely does, and we've seen it in action, and it is a wonderful organization.
If they stopped taking donations, they could go on 60, 70 years.
Because so many endowments, so many people donate, and it was based on faith. A lot of people don't realize that Danny Thomas had his last few dollars, and he put it in the collection plate in the 60s and just prayed about it. He said, I'm just going to give it up. And then he was having some struggles, and that's his story, that within a couple months he got his first movie, or maybe second or third movie, but it was huge.
Right.
And then from that, he said that was his mission, that parents would not have to worry about things while their children are sick.
And it's not just for cancer patients, it's any kid.
Any life-threatening illness. So we've met all kinds of people. We have friends across the country that send things to, there's people from all over the world there. So I don't think a lot of people realize, but they also are on the cutting edge of everything.
Myles, how has going through, what you're going through, how has it impacted your faith? How's it impacted your walk with Christ?
I've always had a strong faith because I spent the night at my grandparents' mass at our church every Sunday. So even though I was there, but I wasn't there.
Okay.
I was at the church, I wasn't there though. After this though, I went to church and I was there. You see what I'm saying?
Present.
I like that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Maybe more understanding.
More understanding of the church, the way it goes. So yeah.
Myles, talk about Dr. Watts. He's had an impact in your life.
Yeah.
Always keeping you encouraged. Kind of talk about you guys' relationship.
You and Dr. Watts. I went to your basketball camp, summer 2023. Ric Flair.
Woo!
Yeah. So that with you, Ric Flair, and then Dr. Watts was my first small group leader, but he had to switch. He became 6th grade. But I didn't see him a lot during 7th grade. It was this year that made more impact on me.
Okay.
Just because his Bible class is very interesting compared to last year. So
All right.
he's actually talking to you and talking from experience. So that's what I like about it.
Okay. what I can tell you is what I remember from basketball camp. Came in every day, full of energy. And if you didn't know, you didn't know. I mean, energetic, playful, competitive, mad when he lost, happy when he won, a great teammate. And it was normal. And so when you hear about these things and then you take a look back and then you say, man, that's a pretty tough kid. He's a pretty tough kid. Where you get that toughness from, man? How do you stay resilient? How do you stay strong, even going through what you go through?
I just act like it's not there. Just be a normal person, which we're all normal. I'm just saying, like, just play like nothing's wrong. Just play. So.
Yeah. Just enjoy life.
Yeah.
That's kind of a symbol of hope. Just play.
Yeah.
I like that. So Mom, talk to me about, the future. Obviously we go back and forth to St. Jude, but we're all optimistic. We're all prayerful. How do you manage just the unknown? How are you managing it?
I'm well versed now with all the changes, and the way his treatment has gone is very different than other children with childhood cancer. Obviously, one of the things is he never looked sick, and you dealt with those challenges of lack of understanding, or he's okay now. But for us, we just focus on what we need to do. And like I said, when I have those moments of doubt, we have an amazing team there, having just finished the proton beam treatment, which what happens with the inhibitors is sometimes they want to grow back teeny tiny. So there are days, it definitely crosses my mind a lot, but I always it does seem like sometimes it's looming over us, and that can be overwhelming for me, not for Myles, but I always check in with him, but he's always handled it very well. But I just focus on the positive, where we've come, the things that I've been told, the doctors that I trust. I have their cell phone. I have this man that does 350 surgeries a year, neurosurgeon. I can text him at 11 o'clock at night if I want to. He will reach out to all his patients. So it puts me at ease when I have my moments, but we just have a great team, and we know that it's changing. Just in the short time that we've been in this, there's been multiple families from Savannah, and there's another family that is at St. Jude there in Richmond Hill, but we met. So you kind of just build your army of supportive people, and call on the community. They take help when they offer it. Don't feel like you don't deserve it or that it's not, and just focus on going forward and hope and pray and just live in hope,
Okay.
Trust and trust.
Myles, if a young, 8th grade boy walked in to this room right now and he found out yesterday, that he was going to be battling cancer, what would you tell him?
God. That's all you need. God. Faith. Don't worry about it. It's just God. It's in God's hands. Yeah.
Mom, what would you tell that mom?
I would tell that mom to advocate for herself and her child, for her family. If a doctor is not giving you what you need and you feel like there are other options, seek them. Find other parents that are in the same situation and focus on whatever you need. And if you need to change and you need to leave those doctors, it's okay, because you have to do what's best for your child. Trust in God. Just look for educated people to get information from, and trust the doctors. And if they're not giving you what you need, find another solution. Seek all the answers that you need, and just welcome the support of the community, of the school. And we've been very blessed because we've had all of that.
Mighty Myles?
Mighty Myles.
Alyssa?
Yes.
You guys are truly winners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.